This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the 2020 iPad Pro. Particularly this one right here I'm holding is the 11-inch. As ever, it's available in the 11-inch and the 12.9-inch sizes. So for the 11-inch, this is the second generation. For the 12.9-inch, it's the fourth generation of the Pro. We're going to look at it now. So first, as you probably know already, there's not a huge upgrade here from the previous generation. The good part is it's not going to make you want to spend money, right, when you already have the previous generation. But on the other hand, we all like to see progress, especially because it's been about 500 days since Apple last refreshed the Pro line models. What is new here? You get twice the base storage, so that's always nice, and that's something that Apple usually does over time as they move from generation to generation. So instead of 64 gigs, the base model is 128 gigs, and you can get it with 256 or 512 or a terabyte of storage. Doesn't matter which of the sizes you're going for here. Also, RAM now 6 gigs for both models instead of 4 gigs for the previous generation. This does mean experientially, and I've tested it compared to the previous generation, less reloading of Safari tabs, that sort of thing. That's always nice. Apple's always kind of skimpy on the RAM. You could say their OS is optimized for RAM, and it is, but still it was clear that it could have used a little more, especially for a power user device like a so-called Pro iPad model. We have the Apple A12Z Bionic instead of the A12X, and all that means in this case, same CPU, they've just enabled a GPU core here that was disabled on the A12X. So you get a little bit better graphics performance, but clearly there's no reason to upgrade here, and I can't tell you why we don't have an A13 like we have in the current model iPhones. Lastly, the distinctive camera cluster there. That looks like the iPhone 11 Pro or Pro Max. It's got 2 cameras, not 3 like the iPhones. There's no telephoto, but they did add a wide angle instead of just having a main camera, and that's a 10 megapixel. And honestly, the cameras on this are pretty darn good. I mean, you don't expect much from tablets, but these take pretty nice pictures. In fact, you can see a picture of our cat taken in mediocre indoor lighting, both with the iPhone 11 Pro Max and with the iPad Pro 11 2020 model, and it's a pretty solid standing showing there for the iPad 11. But you know what? It's not going to beat the iPhone 11 Pro Max, obviously, or Pro. But hey, for a tablet, it beats the pants off of everybody else. Apple says that the recording quality is better. It does sound a little better. I mean, studio quality, not really so much, but it's better. It has 3 microphones. This is nice. By the way, for the cameras, if there's no portrait mode, no night mode for the rear cameras, there is a portrait mode for the front camera. It's not bad, actually. You can see the selfie that I took. In conjunction with those cameras, there's now LiDAR, which is something we see on some robotic vacuums and on self-driving cars like Teslas, that sort of thing. So what it does is it measures the room and depth and where objects are to create a model. So that's for AR, augmented reality. Whether you're using the IKEA furniture placing functionality or playing an AR game, it's noticeably better. So before, if you waved your hand in front of the camera, weird things would happen. If somebody walked across, unnatural things, you'd have furniture floating in the air. So now you place a virtual chair using the IKEA app, for example. It stays grounded on the floor, and when people walk by, it actually looks like they're walking by a real piece of furniture. Is this going to change your world? No. Apple seems excited about this. Maybe they're going to do some other augmented reality products, and this will complement that or go along with that. Oh, Wi-Fi is also upgraded to Wi-Fi 6 from, well, Wi-Fi 5. Not a lot of people have Wi-Fi 6 access points. There are plenty for sale at this point, but it's future-proof, and that's nice. If you go with the LTE plus Wi-Fi model instead of the just Wi-Fi model, well, then you're still looking at gigabit 4G LTE. Probably not until Apple has an A14 Bionic chip will we see integrated 5G LTE available. When will that happen? When will they next refresh the iPad Pros? Or will they make that a higher tier model still? I kind of hope not. iPad Pros are expensive enough, you know. I don't know. Pricing is the same as it's been before, starting at $799 for the 11-inch and $999 for the 12.9-inch. Add more money if you want 4G LTE thrown in there. Add more money as you go up in storage increments. Again, 128 gigs is the base model configuration, which is pretty reasonable given the amount of cloud storage many of us do. But if you are actually using one of these for video editing, and believe me, with LumaFusion or with the included iMovie, you sure could actually do that. In fact, that's an interesting thing about the performance here. Yes, the CPU bump isn't that much, or even the GPU bump, but These things are wickedly powerful, actually, if you can tolerate the workflow on an iPad, which mostly I find the challenge is getting files on and off of the iPad. But this is faster to edit and export 4K video than even the 2020 MacBook Air, and that's kind of insane. And if you look at the benchmark graphs for Geekbench 4 and Geekbench 5, I think more people are still familiar with Geekbench 4 numbers. You look at that multi-core score and you're like, wow, this actually can beat out an HP Spectre X360 13-inch with an Intel 10th Gen CPU. So Apple, you know, they say, hey, this can be your new laptop, sort of. And if you want a touch experience with an Apple product, well, this is your only choice, right? How true is that? It's getting to be more true. Yes, they do have a file manager now. It's somewhat less painful to move files around. We do have cloud services to make that easier. But they have their new Magic Keyboard coming May 25th. Why it takes so long, I don't know. But anyway, this one adds a trackpad. iOS 13.4 that just came out with these new iPads adds that support. So actually you can use trackpads with other iPad models, anyone that's upgradable to this version of the operating system. But for the Pro models, for the 11 and the 12.9 inch, they have this new Magic Keyboard Folio case. So yes, it's a case, protects the front and the back. It has a Magic Keyboard, which means the 1-inch travel scissor key, kind of nice normal keyboard like it's on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, the 2020 MacBook Air, or the desktop keyboard that you can use with iMacs or anything that you want. So it's a better typing experience than the Fabric case, which is still available at $179 to $199, depending on the size. So anyway, this new keyboard experience, given the trackpad and the clever ways that Apple has made it work, it's not just a carbon copy clone of the way it works on macOS, for example. It's a little bit more object-oriented and gesture-oriented. It works really well. Makes it more usable, ergonomically speaking, and workflow-wise as a laptop replacement. Selecting text becomes easy. You don't need your finger or even the Apple Pencil 2, which these are compatible with. So that's cool. The only uncool thing, as ever with Apple, is pricing. So for the 11-inch, that Magic Keyboard is $300. For the 12.9-inch, it's $350. A $300 keyboard accessory for a $799 tablet, that's like 40% almost, you know, more spend. As ever, like I said, the Apple Pencil 2 works with these as well. That's $129, and it's as ever, a glorious experience. It's right up there with Wacom EMR and Cintiqs and the much more expensive Mobile Studio Pro portable tablet Windows computers for pen experience. I mean, the pressure levels, the tilt, the sensitivity, it's all... Those of you who watch my videos know that I do a lot of digital art. That's my hobby and my pastime, and I love using the iPad Pros for that. And that's one case where you could say these iPad Pros could actually maybe save you a little money versus something like a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro or a PC and a Cintiq to get that level of excellent pen experience, which is better than even a Microsoft Surface Pro, much as I love Surface Pros or an HP Spectre X360. Also, when I say that, we're talking about the price of software too. So if you're using Windows or Mac and you want to use Photoshop and such, you're looking at an Adobe CC subscription, which ain't cheap Cheetos, and other programs which typically are more expensive for desktop operating systems, whereas Procreate, which is superb, is $9.99. And there's Photoshop for the iPad too. It's not nearly as good as Photoshop on the desktop if you expect all the features, but it's pretty good for photo editing and all that sort of thing. So there's a lot you can do here. Not everything you can do on the desktop. Which gets into the every year should you get this, or a MacBook Air, or a Windows tablet like the Surface Pro and all that sort of thing. And I would say if you know you need those desktop applications specifically and their functionality, if you're an artist and you're a professional artist working with workflows required by, say, Disney or something like that, and you absolutely have to have full Photoshop and so on, well, then you might want to stick with the desktop operating system, obviously. For me, I mean, obviously, we're not going to spend our weeks professionally editing videos to upload to YouTube on an iPad. You can do it, but the workflows are still easier on desktop, so it depends. But if you're just doing Word, if you're streaming video, if you're editing video more casually, if you're editing photos, it's actually kind of fun to do it on an iPad, especially if you're using an Apple Pencil or your finger to do some of the adjustments and the touch-ups on it. As to which size you should choose, this canoodle comes up every time Apple refreshes the iPads. I've been using a 12.9-inch iPad, lucky me, iPad Pro, and I do that because I do art, and the bigger the canvas, the better. I have a love and hate relationship, though, with it because it's really big, it's really awkward. This is why most Windows tablets are actually a little on the smaller side. I want to turn it around to show somebody something. I have to be so careful and not knock anything over or drop it. You know, you get the idea. But if you want to use it as a laptop replacement, a 12.9 inch makes sense. If you're pretty into art, the 12.9 inch makes sense. For everybody else, I think the 11 inch is a real sweet spot for portability, easy to hold, lighter. You get the idea. 1 pound versus 1.4 pounds. The display on this, by the way, is the same liquid retina display, 120 Hz refresh rate, wide P3 color gamut. Yes, it is nicer than the cheaper iPad models. If you have the money, it sure is nice to have those things. It's not any different than the previous generation, though, so there's nothing to upgrade to here. At 600 nits of brightness, that's up a little bit from, I think, 500 nits in the previous generation. So as tablets go, it's pretty darn bright. Battery life pretty much unchanged here, 10 hours for the Wi-Fi only model they claim and 9 hours for the LTE model. And as ever, if anything, Apple underestimates this. And the battery capacities, you can see them on screen for the two models. You get an 18-watt USB-C based charger. It's very compact, and a 1 meter or a 3-foot long USB-C cable. So that's kind of short for a Pro model. You got to be close to an outlet or spend some money to get a longer cable. Everything else is the same. You have USB-C, which means it's interesting. You can actually use the same USB-C adapters you would buy for your MacBook Pro or MacBook Air at this point. So if you need USB-C to an SD card reader, USB-C to USB-A, you can get adapters to that. Apple's or another brand. Even little mini USB-C hubs work. So it is becoming more like a computer in that respect. We still have squared off sides. We still have an aluminum casing available in silver or space gray. You get the idea. Physically, it's the same. So there you have it. If you have the previous generation, probably not so much unless you're looking to do a size change. Some people want to go bigger, some people want to go smaller. You get the idea. But if you're looking to upgrade from an older iPad, that's where it starts to make sense. If you have the original generation iPad Pros, if you have a lower end, older Air, or something like that, and you want to take the next step up to faster, more storage, better screen, all those sorts of things, then you're going to get that here. So then it makes a lot more sense, and I can understand that. For those of you who are on a tighter budget and you want Apple Pencil support and you want a laminated display because that looks a little nicer and Retina nominally, maybe not as wide gamut, maybe not high refresh, but there's still the iPad Air from 2019. So that one is a 10.5 inch display. It supports the original Apple Pencil, and via OS it does support trackpad, even though Apple hasn't shown any magic keyboard case yet for that one. So for 500 bucks, it's pretty compelling if you would like to have all these extra bells and whistles, but you can't quite make that stretch. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit the notification bell.